This is The Basketball Show with Shane the Hammer Heel. What they gonna say next?
Hello everybody, Joe and Hammer with you for the Chrissy Basketball Show special. All thanks to TCL Mobile, 2K23 and UPC Oz. Hammer, 6 sleeps before the big man arrives?
That's right. I can't believe. Director Dave's normally good at this. Normally we'd have a Santa outfit. You'd be the naughty little elf or something. I don't know.
I'm glad that we haven't got any of that organised, to be honest. But really, really excited. Obviously, an important time for families and coming together. But for the NBL and their Christmas Day game, the Sydney Kings and Melbourne United, I cannot wait for it.
It's going to be the greatest. The highest rating basketball show in the NBL history is what it will be. And I cannot wait just to be laying on the couch in the afternoon and just kick back. I might have a couple of frothies at the same time, full tummy, and no more watching any of those repeat Christmas shows. I'll be watching live basketball.
It's going to be really good. The broadcast is also going to be at the arena, so
Yes.
they're stepping it up. I think D-Ruck's coming to town
He is.
for that one. I'm going to be there courtside as well. I feel like it's just going to be really special to be part of history, I suppose.
Yeah, no, we've been talking about it for years, and finally basketball has done it. And you know, I know there's some sacrifices along the way. Heard Brad Newley and Chris Golding talking about being away from family, and I think moving forward, this game needs to be a Sydney Illawarra. Everyone sleeps in their own beds, or the rest of it, or a Southeast Melbourne, so everyone's at home, and then you get the best of both worlds. Just my thoughts.
Yeah, no, it is hard for Melbourne. I think some of the guys are flying in Christmas Eve. Others are flying on the day because they do want to wake up with their families. So in terms of their legs and their preparation, it will be interesting to see how they go.
Fine.
But it's all for the good of the game, that's for sure.
Big game too, big game.
Before we get into our TCL starting five, shout out to them. They've got this amazing 35G bundle. So you get the phone and the true wireless headphones, $599 for the lot. Pretty impressive.
Awesome stuff.
Perfect for a late Chrissy gift.
And I'm knocking these off. Just
You
quiet.
are?
Director Dave.
I might take the phone. Beautiful. All right, let's get into it. This is our TCL starting five. We're going to begin with some comments that Peyton Sieber made after the Hawks lost to Melbourne United on Sunday. It came after that insane double overtime game between the Kings and Southeast Melbourne, but it meant that their game was delayed slightly. He just voiced his frustrations afterwards. He said, "It was terrible. I don't recommend anyone go through that. You've got your pre-game ritual, you go through warm-ups, and then you have it stopped. Because of the delays, that's tough." So, I mean, to me, that kind of sounds a little bit like an excuse. I guess I just want your thoughts.
I don't reckon anyone should have to go through that.
It's a bit dramatic, isn't it?
It's a little dramatic. Like, as an athlete, you want things to be perfect.
Yeah, and
but you know what?
Completely understand that that's frustrating.
You do, but you know what? Sometimes shit happens. And sometimes you've got to be able to react. Sometimes you've got to be resilient, and things don't go the way you want. But to say that you wouldn't want anyone to have to go through that, when you have some sort of perspective on life and where that sits, I think you just get through it. That's just my personal opinion. And I was trying to be nice about that because it's Christmas.
You were very nice about that.
Didn't raise my voice.
And Melbourne United had to go through that too.
They both had to go through it. It was even for everybody.
Yeah.
Chris Golding probably has his routine exactly the same way.
Let's keep things moving. Southeast Melbourne, of course, we mentioned that insane win, double overtime against the Sydney Kings. Mitch Creek, the standout. Special shout-outs to Owen Foxwell, though I thought he came in and changed the game. But
he was great.
It's their inconsistency at the moment that I think is still a concern. I think they had 30 points off the bench this game, which is huge. It's been 3, 6, and maybe 4 prior to that. Are they showing you enough?
Yeah, I've been saying for a while now that I think they can compete for a title. You're right, the inconsistency is something that would be worrying them as a club and a team, and they'd be trying to address, but they've got enough pieces to be able to compete with anyone in the league. If that man on screen, if Mitch Creek plays the way he did the other day, and with that sort of mentality, he made big shots, he was tough, he wanted the ball in the crunch time they went to him, then they can seriously compete. But they have to find a consistency. And you're right, well done, Foxwell. He's good to watch. He really made a difference coming on. didn't he?
Oh, he just made life really hard for Derek Walton and clamped down big time. Another thing that's come out this morning,
I'm not sure
though,
he clamped down. He had 45, but he made a difference.
When he was in.
Yes.
When he was in. Joe Chi is heading back to China for the foreseeable future. They have said in a statement that they would like to see him back by the end of the season.
Why?
He's heading back for family, personal reasons.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
Does that impact?
Hope everything's all right.
Does that impact your thoughts?
Yeah, well, it definitely impacts them, but I'm not sure it's the difference maker. I think they're good enough still to be able to compete. I'm not sure they'll win it, but I think they can compete.
Mm-hmm. A lot can happen in a year. Joey Ingles, he went down injured with the Jazz. He was then traded to Portland, then to the Bucks, and he is now about to take take the court for the first time in about 10 months.
If Joey's at the Bucks, I'm at the Bucks.
Okay, really?
Yeah, I'm on that Bucks bus.
I feel like you're at the Bucks anyway.
I was sort of there, but it just makes me fully invested with Joey there. God love Joey. I can't wait to see him. He's going to help them too. It'll take a little bit of time for him, but
yes,
he's just such a great man. He's a legend.
No, exactly. Great to see him out there, obviously, from a Boomers point of view as well, leading up to all the momentum into next year and then Paris too.
Yep, bring it on.
Got to talk about a really tough one that we saw during the week. The Dallas Mavericks, Ty Terry, who is only 22 years of age. He was the number 31 pick in the 2020 draft. He came out and announced his retirement. It's not something you see every day, but he just discussed the mental battles and the pressure that the game has put on him. A game that he sort of said has shaped him and shaped who he is, but has also taken him to some of the darkest places he's ever been to. It's really, really sad, quite confronting to read, and just, I guess, gives you an insight of some of the pressures that these players go through.
No doubt. I mean, the thing that I took out of that most, I think he said he's aiming for happiness. You know, you think because you're playing in the NBA that, you know, you've got to be happy just because you're playing there, but there's so many other things that people deal with along the way, and I like the fact that he's been able to take stock, go away, do some other things, try and get himself in a really good state, as he said, be happy, because you never know what will happen once he's in a good mental space anyway. Maybe he'll come back in a few years and play the greatest basketball he's ever played because he's been able to work on himself. So I think it's a great discussion point.
It is, and just another reminder, you don't know what people are going through as well, so definitely wish him all the best. And finally, to end our TCL starting five, Chris Goulding and Brad Newley celebrating their 400th and 300th games respectively. Just what do you think of? What comes to mind when you think of those two?
Oh, well, Chris Goulding, I mean, he's a freak. He's one of the greatest shooters we've seen. But Brad Newley, when you talk about 300 games, let's give the man a little bit of respect because he had so many games overseas.
Well, I was going to say, how many would he be on if he'd stayed here?
Crazy amount. Crazy amount. He would be up there as one of the greatest games played ever because, and he had a really, really good career. Not a Dave Anderson sort of career in Europe, but he had one of the really, really stellar European careers. So well done to him and to both of them. Champion blokes as well, so great to see them celebrate.
Most definitely. Very quickly, it was Jersey Day last week. Simon Valens Whaler has the most ridiculous collection of Aussie jerseys I have ever seen. Check that out.
How good is that? And that is only a little sample of what he's got because a few people on Twitter said, oh, why don't you have this? And then he just flips up another page where he's got like 10 versions of Paddy and, you know, of Luke and everybody else. And well done to you, my friend, because there was a lot of people that jumped on that and got a lot of joy out of it.
A few people also that pointed out that some of the new guys aren't there. Rest assured that photo is actually a couple of years old and he definitely has all the fresh faces in the league as well.
MVP of the NBA Australian collection. He is.
Love that.
Breaking all the big news in basketball with Matt Logue.
All right, Maddie Logue is here for the Logue Down as always. Maddie, we'll start with Brisbane. We're actually meant to have their CEO, Pete McLennan, on the show. I spoke to him the other day. Was really looking forward to actually picking his brain a bit about just what's happening up there.
I have my question ready.
Unfortunately, he couldn't.
He didn't come on. I have my question. And my first question was, what the f*** is going on in Brisbane?
It's probably a legit question. I would hope that you'd pose it differently to that.
No, maybe that's why he didn't come on.
Well,
anyway,
possibly,
sorry to jump in.
Hopefully we will get to speak to him at some point and let them sort of clear the air and let us know, or the fans know what is happening. Aside from that, they also still haven't locked in their new coach. What is the latest?
Well, the players are in the dark, Joe.
Okay.
The players have got no idea is the latest. I've reached out to a few and they've said, look, we don't know. Todd Purvis was reported. He's based out of Indonesia. that he was in advanced talks with the clubs, but I'm told it doesn't look like it's going to happen. I think there's been blowback from some players that have said, well, you haven't consulted us and we're not really happy necessarily with that decision, and I don't think it'll happen. So at the moment, Joe, nothing's locked in, and I think, as Shane said, what the hell is going on up there? They need to sort some things out, and I think a big thing is to involve the players. Like, the players have been left on the dark on a lot of things.
That was an understatement to say the players weren't happy. I heard that there was a discussion of whether they were actually going to play in Cairns.
Really?
From the players.
Wow.
Well, that's just what I heard. That players
Boycott.
were not
Interesting.
happy at all. And you understand why. I don't blame them.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot going on up there, and they need, as I said, they've got to get it sorted, and particularly that with the ownership group, and then you got Pete, and then you got Sam, and it's just a mess, and that's how a few players have described it, a mess.
It is a mess. Hopefully, as I said, we can get Pete on at some point and have a chat to him and find out exactly what is going on, and also what their plan is moving forward too. The worst kept secret in the NBL over the last week, Ian Clark on his way to Adelaide.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, he will be. Look, there's rules around signing players where clubs are not allowed to say it publicly. But, geez, I think that's got to change, because poor old CJ Bruton on the weekend, he was asked the question.
He didn't know what to do, did he?
Oh, he didn't know what to do. And look, to be fair, like, he did. That's something I think that the league needs to address. So clubs are not in that position. But I know Ian, there was a bit of reservation with signing with Adelaide. Like, it's a business move, but he made it a point of calling all the Kings officials that he worked with last year and said, not sorry, but he was just like, oh, look, I want to be a King again in the future. We see him here with the Golden State Warriors winning a championship that year, and he had a great impact last year, Joe and Shane, and I think it is with a heavy heart that he joins the Adelaide. But my question to you guys is, can he do it? Like, can he make a big difference? And do Adelaide have enough wins up their sleeve to really make an impact and make that top six?
First of all, back to CJ's thing. Can't CJ say that we've signed him and we're waiting on approval from the league? Can't they say that? Look, that's what it is,
I feel
right?
he would have said that if he was allowed to, surely.
I think
that's what I'm saying. Shouldn't
he was
be
told.
allowed
He
to?
should, no, of course. Yeah, you'd
That's
think
just,
so.
I feel like there's, that's just the way it should happen.
Yeah.
About Clark, I think he's the perfect signing. I don't know how much work he's done, how fit he is, but what I do know of him and his character, he was a great teammate for the Kings. He was really good to talk to. You saw him on the bench. He was right into it. He was completely different than Randall. So he's not coming in here with a huge ego. He's coming in to try and win another championship and try and help them.
Can they, though?
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter who they bring in. You want the right personality and someone who can make an impact off the bench. And I think he's already shown that he did that with the Sydney Kings. Can he have a big enough impact on the court? But he certainly will have a positive impact on the bench and in the locker room. So that's a really good start for me.
Certainly exactly what they need. Now, we mentioned Southeast Melbourne and the fact that Joe Chi is heading back to China for personal reasons. They are also dealing with a number of injury outs.
Yeah, well, they've got the short turnaround. Coach Simon Mitchell's filthy about that because they're backing up after that epic double overtime. But
how did that happen, by the way? Why were they the team that was chosen to change their whole schedule?
It's a great question. And that's where Simon does have a point. The thought needs to go into the team that does play, given their short turnaround. It probably shouldn't have been the Phoenix, but it was. That's a question for the NBL.
Particularly, what rights do they have when they've got two of their starters that won't be travelling in that game?
Well, they've got to play the Bullets now. So Gary Brown with a calf. I don't think he'll play. Ryan Brokoff, he's also got a hip. I don't think he'll play. And then you've got Trey Kell, who's also in doubt. And you've got Joe Chi, as you guys mentioned in the opener. So it's a tough gig.
That's
like,
not
I know
right.
the Bullets are not going well, but I think that's where Simon Mitchell does have a fair point. So I think the NBL, whoever made that decision in terms of the scheduling, maybe need to look a little bit harder and go, hey, maybe we get Tassie to go to that game and just rejig it a bit.
Do you not think, though, that whoever is responsible for the scheduling would have made the best possible decision they could?
Okay,
yes,
but
I also agree with that.
But why do they have to play? Why doesn't the game have to get made up at another time? Why do you force somebody like Southeast Melbourne, they're right on that brink and playing pretty good basketball, to travel without some of their key players in a game they weren't scheduled to be able to play?
Yeah.
Don't play the game and play it at some other time. It's not Southeast Melbourne's problem to fix the whole schedule for the NBL. And why are they the team?
Yeah, no, it's a good point. you get the feeling that the schedules aren't out to get South East Melbourne.
No, I get that. But what I'm saying is they shouldn't be also out to penalise a team that had no right to be penalised.
Yeah.
Just call the game off, replay it at a different time. But it's not like I don't blame Simon Mitchell.
Yeah, for sure. Alrighty, that's all for now, Maddie?
Yep.
All right, let's get into our crystal gazing. All right, let's get into our crystal gazing. 2 more games left of round 11. Adelaide and Tassie tonight, Taipans and Perth tomorrow. Round 12 officially tips off on Wednesday. It's Brisbane hosting South East Melbourne. It was meant to be the New Zealand Breakers. A little bit of conjecture around that, but nonetheless, the game will go ahead. Let's bring in former NBL MVP and the Mayor of Brisbane, as always, D. Ruck. D, we'll come to you first with this one. Who have you got for that game? Your Bullets up against the Phoenix.
Oh, now they're my Bullets, okay? I don't think the Bullets have enough firepower, like playing these types of offensive-minded teams like Southeast Melbourne is. We saw what Brisbane did in Adelaide. Joe, this is going to be an unfortunate lead into Christmas for Brisbane supporters. I got Southeast Melbourne by at least 15.
All right.
I think Brisbane caused an upset. It's unfair on Southeast Melbourne. They're going injured and they're going to have 2 or 3 of their key players out.
Hammer, Thursday, the Hawks are on the road again, this time down in Tassie.
Ooh.
Who wins that?
That's going to get nasty. and they've been pretty good, Illawarra, as far as competing, but Tassie are ruthless. They just played such a team basketball, a game of team basketball. Defensively, they're tough. I just think that's going to be a big win. Tough one for Illawarra.
All right, Maddie, Melbourne host Cairns on Friday. Tough few days for them physically, but also mentally, as we mentioned earlier. How do they match up with the Taipans?
Yeah, I think the Taipans will get this. Keanu Pinder's just outstanding this year in the MVP conversation, and Melbourne have found a little bit of a gear, but they've shown glimpses over the weekend against Illawarra where they should have put them to bed and they didn't. So I think Cairns way too good.
Next up, Adelaide take on South East Melbourne, potentially with their recruit Ian Clark. D?
Tough one right here, but I'm going to go with the Sixers. I think they may have broken through with that game against Brisbane. It turned into a 3-point shootout. It turned into a dunk competition, all going Adelaide's way. I've got them winning this one in a really high-scoring game. Both teams may go over 95 points plus Hammer.
Yeah, that should be fun. Christmas Day, Sydney taking on Melbourne United. So excited for this one. The Kings obviously favourites going in. Hammer, you'll be on the sofa with a beer in hand.
Yes.
Who are you predicting winning?
And a mouthful of chocolate. And they're flying in the big dog for the Melbourne Basketball League is Derek Rucker on Christmas Day in Sydney. Cannot wait to see you in front of the microphone again, my brother. But I think Sydney are going to be too good. I think Sydney will give Melbourne some chances at different stages in this game. But I want to see Walton Jr. continue on in his aggressive manner, because when he plays like that, we've seen him in various games, he can go off, but there's too many times for me where he just defers to everybody else, happy to play the team game, but not sure about Cooks with his ankle injury. I think DJ needs to have a big one on Christmas Day.
Cannot wait. It's going to be so much fun. Then it's Boxing Day, the Jack Jumpers taking on the Breakers, who you could argue that you'd forget that they're in the competition, given we've not seen them on court for a little while. They suffered with that COVID outbreak. It is anyone's guess as to how they'll be feeling on the night.
Rusty?
No doubt. Who wins, Maddie?
I think because of the COVID, you stick with Tassie at home. They've proven that their record there, and it's just too much unknown, I suppose, for the Breakers. But they give themselves a chance, but yeah, it'd be difficult.
Finally, D, Brisbane again, they're hosting the Wildcats.
Oh, boy, I can't even remember what I decided on this one. But let's talk about that COVID situation, Joe. You, as the queen of COVID, had a record. You've had like a record 6 times. I mean, you're hardly one to blame the Breakers. They can't control what happens to them. They're trying to play it safe over there. I've got Brisbane winning this one, Joe. They finally get back in the winning column. And someone told me that they believe that this may be Brisbane's final win of the season.
Wow.
Wow.
Who have you been talking to? I'm intrigued.
I'm going to keep that secret until later on in the season if it comes true. But someone I respect and made me stop and think and go through the schedule. And while I don't believe it to be true, it's possible.
Mate, you think that they're not going to beat an undermanned Southeast Melbourne, they're going to lose by 15 plus, but then they're going to come back and they're going to beat the Perth Wildcats. That's what you're trying to tell me.
What's up with Perth, though, really? I haven't figured out what they're about. I don't know if they're good. I know they're not bad, but where do they fit in this thing? They're sitting in this gray abyss where I can't determine or evaluate them.
I think they're good. I don't think they're great. I don't think they're bad. I think they'll probably be, trying to get into that play-in game. And that's probably where they sort of sit, I reckon.
Well, we will see what happens. We're in a run of 14 straight games in the NBL, so super exciting for the fans out there. Gents, thank you very much. All right, Dee is still with us. Let's get into our points made thanks to UPC Oz. Now, Hammer, I'm coming to you with this one first. You want to talk about James Harden being James Harden. He came out, he said, I'm one of the people that changed the game of basketball. Honestly, the only thing that I'm missing is a championship. What would you like to talk about? Tell me.
He changed what? Like he set a record for the most dribbles per possession of all time. What did he change? Derek, I know Derek's a massive fan. You tell me, Dee. What did he change?
What did he change?
Yeah.
He changed significance after Stephen Curry of the three-point line and the ability to isolate and bring your team
and flop.
in.
And flop on every jump shot. And flop on every jump shot. They had to change rules because of his continuous flopping. That's what he changed.
One of the great passers in the game, one of the great one-on-one players in the game, and I dare say were it not for Harden paving the way mentally from a psychological play perspective, Luka Doncic would not be permitted to do what he does. Luka's usage rate and his dribbles per game average is higher than Harden's ever were. So how come you don't complain about Luka?
Because I like Luka.
Oh, okay. Look here. You can't knock what Harden is doing this season, especially in the last 10 games. He's averaging 23 and 11, Hammer. At good numbers, his team is 7-3. Look, I don't always love his body language either, but you can't deny that he changed the game. I mean, one might even say I'm somewhat of a James Harden here in Australia. I changed the game, but I don't have a championship either, Hammer.
What, did you come out and say that? I was going to say that, but you just did. So no wonder you like James Harden.
There you go.
Because you just said it.
Well, hey, speaking of, Dee's right. They've won 7 of their last 10, Philly. They're 5th in the East. Oh, well. There are a couple of other teams as well. The Nets, they're 19-12 on the season, up to 4th in the East. The Clippers are coming too. They've won 4 of their last 5. Dee, I mean, these teams, they're pushing. We expect them to do well, but just given their slow start and obviously a little bit of controversy surrounding a couple of them as well, can they actually sustain it and be a threat come the playoffs?
And one more to that. With how good James Harden is, can he win a championship playing the way he's playing?
Oh, see, I think that they're in a tough position, Philly. They've got to deal with Milwaukee. They've got to deal with Boston. And now the Nets are coming along. And let's touch on the Nets first, Hammer. Kevin Durant is playing sensationally. And now they've got the Kyrie that everybody wanted. The mind your business and let's just focus on your craft, Kyrie. We don't need to hear all your theories about topical subjects throughout the world. Dude, you're going to retire at 34, 35. You've got 50 years to spout all that info and bless us with your wisdom at that time. Save it for then. The LA Clippers, Hammer, are deep. They've got a lot of talent. If they can keep Paul George and Kawhi Paper-Mache Leonard healthy, they've got a real chance because those two guys right there can defend and they can score. No one else has players like them except the Celtics with Brown and Tatum. And then the final team we touched on briefly was Philly. They're the third best team in that scenario, but they've got Embiid, a guy who can carry that team to a championship, I believe.
And aren't the Nets and the Clippers now just playing the sort of basketball that we expected them to play anyway?
They are. And, I think just having Ben's present out there, Ben Simmons, obviously, for the Nets helps big time. He's just never going to be the scorer, even though he had that couple of games. But if you look today, he had like 7 rebounds. He's making sure they're organized. And if Durant's getting 43 efficiently, then Ben is probably contributing to that in a positive way.
No doubt. Closer to home in the NBLD, we touched on Brizzy earlier, the coaching situation, the fact that there's conflict and unrest among the players. Hammer mentioned the fact that there was potential that they'd boycott the game against Cairns. You're up there. We talk about the fact that you're the Mayor of Brisbane patrolling the place. What are you hearing?
Well, we hear so many things. I mean, I heard that too, Shane, throughout the week, that the Bullets players were so upset that they were talking about, not playing. I think that was just a very emotional thought process there. But, I'm hearing that they've reached out to some of their past coaches, and I'll let you try and figure out who that might be. But they've contacted people surreptitiously. They've contacted Anthony Petrie, I heard. Apparently, he refused it, felt he needed to concentrate on furthering his coaching resume and his family. He's got girls who play at a very high level. So Petrie was ruled out. I thought he would have been a great option. And I don't know what happened to the previously mentioned Todd Purves, who has the amazing resume of one time being the head coach of the Vietnamese national team. Shane, I'm sure you came across them in your international duties.
If I'm Brisbane, I'm trying to get Paul Henare. I think he's the. I love Paul Henare as a coach. I thought he did a really good job in New Zealand. I thought he did a great job with their national team. I think he's a player's coach, but he's hard, but he's fair. I think he's somebody that you would want to play for. And I think they need to go and headhunt somebody like him. He's out of the country at the moment. I don't know what his status is and how much money he earns, but I think that if they're going to be serious, they need to get someone closer to home that can help recruit players. Obviously, he's got that affiliation with New Zealand that would help get some players from over there as well. And I think if you had someone like Paul Henare, you had Apero Cameron as an assistant coach, you got ex-players that have a lot of experience in the coaching ranks, and I think that'd be a step in the right direction.
Hammer, I actually think you mentioned Paul Henare before JD was appointed coach,
I did.
if my memory is correct. Yeah, okay, interesting one. That's all we've got time for in terms of points made, thanks to UPC Oz. Don't forget to go to upcoz.com for all the NBA and NBL markets, as well as all their Christmas specials across cricket, ice hockey, NFL, and more. And on behalf of UPC Oz and their customers, everyone who's working for them, Merry Christmas to everyone and Happy New Year. All right, time now to go in depth thanks to NBA 2K23 with two-time Olympian, two-time NBL MVP, former first-round draft pick, Chris Anstey. Chris, thank you so much for being on the basketball show. Great to be able to talk to you now. You are just back from the USA. Can you tell us about your trip, because it sounds pretty epic?
It's been a long time. I was over there for 6 weeks. We got through COVID, and I guess like a lot of people, we had a lot of ideas, and one of the things I wanted to do was to share some of my NBA experiences and relationship with probably the wider business and basketball public in Australia. So we put out an expression of interest form. We had incredible interest, and we took two groups across. We spent time with the New York Knicks, the Boston Celtics, as you can see on the screen, the Dallas Mavericks, and the Washington Wizards. So the access we got was incredible. I finally got to see my name on the Mavericks court, which was really special. And just to reconnect with some of my old teammates, and Dirk Nowitzki came and spoke to both groups privately, and caught up with Steve Nash again, and just some of the front office people was probably a long time overdue, and it's something we hope to continue to do moving forward.
Mate, you're doing a great job in this space. Sounds like a lot of fun, but I was at the Josh Giddey night that you ran in Sydney. Fantastic to be able to hear his insights. You bring out Dirk Nowitzki. Tell us a little bit about him, mate. Just such a freak of a player. What was one of your greatest memories that you saw him do, either on court or off court?
You know what? I think we all know what he did at his peak. He won the MVP, he won his championship. I'll never forget calling Brian Georgian, who was clearly my coach before I went over, and I just used to remember watching Dirk do all of these crazy shooting drills. He had his coach in from Germany, and he'd be 1 foot, he'd be spinning around, he'd be shooting them off balance, and he just wouldn't miss, and his release was so high. And we'd play some one-on-one, and he was a year behind me. He got drafted the year after me, and I thought I was going pretty good. And then I matched up on him, and I just realised there was a whole another level. I called George and I said, mate, you want to see this European kid. He's going to be the best European player there's been. I've never seen someone shoot the ball so effortlessly. And fair to say, Gord, ripped me a little bit and didn't quite believe what I was seeing to be true. But I reckon I was pretty close. And look, Dirk, of all the people I wouldn't have picked to have played 21 seasons in one town, he struggled when he got there. He struggled with the American culture. He was homesick every other week, and for him to do what he did, not only on the basketball court, but to implant himself in that Dallas community, is just a credit to him. And once we started running these events, like you said, Josh Giddey was incredible. We ran 7 shows with Luke Longley, and it was just a really, really obvious one that when Dirk wanted to come to Australia and watch some of the Australian Open, him agreeing to come down and share his story and get on a basketball court and share some of his shooting drills. It's with the access our group got, as you can see in these photos, was incredible. The access that people will get here in Australia, and Melbourne and Sydney, is going to be even better, so we can't wait.
No, we can't wait either. It's going to be fascinating to be able to sit down and listen to him. When you were over there, did you get a chance to see some of the other Aussies out there on the floor? There are a number of them who are killing it at the moment. Josh Giddey, of course, but the likes of Dyson and Jock and those guys. Did you get to see them too?
I saw Josh Green a couple of times, and talk about someone who's taken a massive step this season. He's shooting the 3 ball really consistently. He's getting the opposition best player most frequently, and he's the guy they're sending to trap superstars and rotate out. He's moving great. He's playing with a lot of confidence. One of the games we went to, actually, he had his 23 points early in the 4th and missed a game tying 3. And was a little bit torn because my career high at the Mavs was 26, and I wanted him to knock it down as much as I probably, when he didn't, wasn't as disappointed as maybe I should have been. But look, Josh Green's been incredible. Jock Landale's had his moments. We got to see Joe Ingles very briefly, and it's exciting, of course, only warming up and getting through his workouts. But even watching those workouts, you could tell he's getting close, and he'll be back in the next week or two. So we saw Paddy Mills, but he's not playing much at the moment. But we were blessed with the number of Aussies we got to see in our tour. And I'll tell you what, we saw a lot of superstars, but I've got to say, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, he's really, really special. And we got to see him, of course, when we were watching Josh. But if he's not an all-star, or if he's not one of the top 10 players in the league, I'll tell you what, he's got to be close.
Do you watch the modern-day NBA and think, geez, it'd be nice to be playing now with the way you played back? In those days, there wasn't 7-footers shooting threes like you obviously could. Do you feel like you're a little bit ahead of your time?
No, it was interesting back in the day. You always got told you were soft if you wanted to shoot the 3, but that was something I probably developed over the course of my career because I needed to. I turned up to the NBA, and the very first post move I made was my best move, and it ended up 3 rows into the stands, and I thought that's not probably going to get it done. So I figured if I had to defend some of those big, strong physical guys in the post, I figured they might have to come and defend me around the perimeter. So it took a long time to develop, but probably as much as being able to shoot the ball, I guess. If I knew then what I knew now, I mean, experience, we learn a lot as we go through, but I was pretty naive when I went through in the NBA, and just with a few more years experience might have made a little bit of difference. But it was a great ride. I learned plenty, and it's nice to be able to reconnect with it again at the moment.
Chris, I know you watch a lot of NBL when you're home as well. From a centre's point of view, what do you make of the state of that position? There aren't a lot of Aussies filling them. Aaron Baines, obviously the standout, but what do you see when you're watching it?
There are no big coaches. I don't think they're being taught right. There are a lot of things I see where the emphasis is on the guards and the backcourt, and the bigs are being used to screen and to facilitate movement, but they don't really know how. You look at the Sydney Kings, and they've got Luke Longley working with them, and you can see that working, but there's very few teams who have specialised bigs coaches. So I'd love to see some teams take a chance and bring some guys in to work with their bigs, with their footwork, with their craft, with their contested finishing around the rim, and probably just with some of the choices they make. But No, look, I think everything works in cycles. I think we'll end up getting a few genuine bigs in the league. And, when Andrew Bogut came back, you saw a few more come back just to combat that. But I reckon we'll get a real dominant one in the next few years, and everyone's going to have to adjust to deal with that. And I think we'll see some in the very near future. But in the short term, I think, you mentioned Aaron Baines. I think he can be used a lot more effectively than what he's being used now. I feel like he's wasted on the elbows and at the three-point line. He's the most physical big in the league, but he doesn't touch it often by the basket. So, look, there's a little bit going on in that space, but it's nice to be able to turn up to a game with sort of all care, no responsibility, and just enjoy it.
Who wins it from here, big fella? Who wins the NBL title?
God, I'll tell you what, the game last night between the Phoenix and the Kings was as good an NBL game as I've seen in a long time, and a lot's been said about the Kings, and until somebody beats them, it's their championship to lose. But I just reckon the Phoenix have, not much has been said about them, but I think they're going okay, and I'm fascinated to see how Ian Clark helps the Adelaide 36ers. It's wide open. Cairns and New Zealand have been great. I don't think they can win it. I'll be fascinated to see who fills that sixth spot. But if I had to put my money on it, I'd probably go with the Kings right now.
Hey Chris, put yourself in Larry Kesselman's shoes. You've announced a Christmas Day game. You've brought in the Jack Jumpers. Expansion is seemingly on the cards again. What is the next move that you're making in order to grow the NBL?
I think the thing is to continue to make sure the teams are sustainable. I think with the money that's coming in through the TV deals, the owners are finally seeing a little tiny bit of profit. We need the next generation of basketball fans to be supporting the same teams that we're supporting today. I think that's where the sport's fallen down historically. There are so many teams that don't exist anymore. What I think the top priority needs to remain is that the teams that are in the league now are still in the league in 25 years' time, so that my little 7-year-old can grow up barracking for United or the Phoenix and doesn't have to learn to grow and know a new team that doesn't exist right now. So if there is to be expansion, I hope it's sustainable. Not my area of expertise, but I just want this league to remain consistent and continue to grow.
I'm all out. That was very insightful, big fella.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
Very much so. Hey, Chris, thank you so much. Always good to talk. We know we've had you on the basketball show before, but it's always interesting and really, really looking forward to the next tour and having Dirk out here. I think that's going to be a great success. So thank you so much.
You're more than welcome. We'll see you at one of your shows.
Well, that is all we've got time for our Chrissy special. Hammer, I hope you have a great time with the family.
Thank you, and to you and to all our fans. Have a great Christmas, and hopefully Santa comes to you guys. And if you don't have prezzies, get stuck into some of this stuff from our sponsors.
Exactly right. Special thanks to them, TCL Mobile, 2K23 and UPC Oz. Don't forget the Kings and Melbourne United, 6:30 Chrissy Day. We'll see you on the other side.
This is a co-production by News Corp Australia and Closer Sports.